The Flix Book Club.
The
Na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Book Club.
Yeah, I'm not doing this.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Flix Book Club. Happy St. Patrick's Day, first and foremost. My name is Dennis Rooney. I'm joined here with my buddies.
Steve McDonald.
Casey Aurora.
And this week, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, we decided to watch The Quiet Man.
Yeah.
1952 film directed by John Ford, starring John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, and Barry Fitzgerald.
Right.
This movie is about, basically, this guy is Irish-American, born in, I think he spent some time in Ireland, was born there.
Yeah, he was
moved
born
at a
in
very
Ireland.
young age to Pittsburgh.
Right.
Now he's, like, grown up and kind of retiring.
Pittsburgh, Massachusetts, by the way.
Which, yeah, so
That was a
thrown off.
joke.
I think that's a mistake
That was
or
a-
a
no,
joke.
it was a joke.
It was a joke.
yeah.
Okay. So he grows up in Pittsburgh, and he goes to Ireland to retire. He goes to buy his old family's plot of land to reclaim, his birthplace and stuff. Falls in love with a local young lass,
Right.
and marrying her turns out to be not so easy, especially with her bullheaded older brother.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I picked this movie, Dennis Rooney. I picked this movie.
Why
because
did you pick this movie?
I picked this movie because St. Patrick's Day, in honor of that, I am an Irish American myself.
Sure.
My mother told me once.
Here's my
hold on.
favorite part. I couldn't stop thinking about what your mom told you. What did your mom tell you?
Well, let me tell you first. This movie came on my radar because my boss at my job told me that every year on St. Patrick's Day he watches this movie and he has a drink. He watches this movie by himself. The guy's German.
So creepy.
The guy's 100% German. He watches this
That's
movie
so
every year.
That's after watching the movie, that's a very weird.
No, I love that.
Thing
I
to
think
do.
that's a great tradition.
Like my dad used to watch the 10 Commandments on Easter, and it was very weird.
Why?
That's
And he
much
would,
weirder.
Yeah,
than
and he
this.
would get hammered, and he would side with the Pharaoh, which made things extra awkward in the house.
I think if I watch this movie with a couple drinks in me, I might side with the wrong people too. You know?
Right, yeah, he's just like, I just don't get it. These people won't listen to this. He's trying to take care of them. I'm like, not really, Dad.
So
And it was a two-parter, too, because they showed it on TV. So they'd show it on Sunday and Monday, and he'd be, like, hammered through the whole thing.
2 days of hell for Easter.
Yeah, Easter was the worst holiday in my family household.
So that's how I found out about this movie. That's how it came on my radar. I asked my parents about it because my mom's an Irish American. My dad is from Ireland.
Yeah.
And my dad, I don't think he even saw it. My mom looked at me and said, "We don't like that movie. It doesn't paint the Irish in a very good light."
It doesn't. So,
Which we will discuss, which I
Right.
want to ask you guys.
We'll
So
discuss.
stream it or don't stream it. Absolutely 110% stream it. This movie came out over 60 years ago. Still holds up. It's hilarious. It's laden with Irish humor. It's a good romantic comedy story. There's some action. There's things for everybody. It looks great. Watch this movie for St. Patrick's Day.
Steven, what do you think?
I'm
And
going
also,
with,
hold on, wait. I'm praying that one other person gives it a stream it. Because I said I know I'm gonna probably give this movie a stream it.
Yeah.
If nothing else, out of spite, because St. Paddy's Day and everything.
Right.
But I'm hoping this movie was funny enough that one of you will be on board and say begrudgingly stream it. Go ahead.
I'm going with don't stream it.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't like it.
It's not a bad movie, but I don't like it.
No, like I could understand why somebody would watch this movie and be like, that was a delightful, romp through Ireland.
Right.
I just didn't like it.
It's a nice
part
way
of
to
it.
describe it.
Part of it is that it's that 1950s style movies I just have a hard time with because they're slow. Like the pacing is is very slow and feels a little weird to me. But we'll get into that entire thing.
Okay.
But I'm saying don't stream it.
Now let's see. For me,
Come on, baby.
come on, do you some justice. Don't stream it. This movie, no. This
Traitors.
movie stinks. It's so ridiculous. I sat down and I watched this movie, and I watched it. I took a little break in between, and the first 40 minutes, man, I was down, man. I was like, man, Rooney might have hit this thing out the ballpark. I'm not a big sports guy, but when the baseball player hits the ball, and you're thinking this might just go all the way. Nah. All right, so we'll take a break, and then we'll discuss this some more.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm not accusing Mary Kate. It's him. Why, this very morning, let him deny it if he can. At the back of the chapel, He took liberties that he shouldn't have.
I said good morning to her.
Good morning. Yes, but it was good night you had on your mind.
That's a lie.
That's a what?
I said that's a lie.
That's a word I take from no man. Put up your fists.
I'm not gonna fight you, Dan.
But I'm gonna fight you then.
And we're back. Did you watch it? Did you like it? Did you have a drink and think about better days? This episode, we're going to discuss a woman's place in the house, boys. Okay? How did you not like this movie? This movie was hilarious, man.
Listen, this is the thing. In the beginning, I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. I kind of like the pacing.
It is slow. I know that.
I like the slow pacing. I was actually
don't.
kind of a fan of it. And you know, the thing is, they have a montage when John Wayne and, is it Maureen O'Hara?
Yes, Maureen O'Hara.
It's sort of like a lightly musical montage where they're just kind of making their way through the hills. And you know what it reminded me of is that I think that this style of movie is how a lot of Indian movies kind of started to do things as well.
I am
That
so
makes
happy
sense.
that already came up because I was going to bring it up, and I said this to Steven the other day, and he kind of laughed. But Irish culture and Indian culture are very similar.
Very similar.
And the humor is very similar.
Yes, and
that's another reason why I was hoping I might get you on board with this film.
Right, and you know, when I saw that montage and it just kind of struck me, I was like, wow, I think Indian movies have sort of borrowed from this sort of thing, except they like it so much that they still do it now.
All you were missing from The Quiet Man, the only thing that was missing to give it a stream it was like a song
dance
number.
Well, I mean, there was a
song and
song
dance
number.
number.
There were
There
a
was a song.
number of song
There-
numbers.
you're right. Yeah, there was.
But
There weren't any, like, it wasn't like it was like singing in the rain or something like that. But there
there
were a
wasn't
number of
dancing.
moments where it was like, hey guys, I'm gonna start singing this song, and now everybody in the town knows all the words to this song also.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been to Ireland, walking through town. I'll just start singing something like, "Oh, happy day." Everyone immediately joins in.
Oh, that's what
It's
they
like,
do?
It's social
I never want to
rules,
go to
man.
Ireland.
You just start singing, everyone joins you.
Yeah.
So Ireland is like a musical.
I'm gonna.
Ireland is like a musical where you can just start singing, and as long as you're drunk,
There's more
it's
fights.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Well, there
Have
were.
you seen West Side Story?
There
I
was.
digress.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm watching this movie, and the whole time I'm just thinking about what your mom said. It paints Irish people in a
let's
bad
I
light.
tackle-
kept thinking the same thing also.
Let's
the
tackle
whole
that.
time I was just going every single time that the guy who I don't even know what he did, but he ended up being the matchmaker.
Mhm.
Every single time that guy showed up and he was like I've been at the pub. I'm drunk. Where's the bottle? I don't know where I'm going. I just kept thinking, this does not paint Irish people.
Barry
in a good
Fitzgerald,
light.
that little guy,
Right.
hysterical, stole the movie in my
He
opinion.
was great. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
the fact is that like this movie is just like it went from basically it's guy comes to his country, comes to Ireland, sees this girl, falls in love with her, wants to marry her, brother's in the way. It's a classic tale.
Classic tale.
Tale as old as time. All right.
Song as
Tale-
old as rhyme.
Right.
I'm not.
So you're not gonna finish.
we're not finishing this.
So it's that, and you're like, okay, I'm on board. But then the last 15 to 20 minutes of the movie is just this ridiculous fight sequence where these
It's
these
awesome.
morons are just battling through the town. Everybody's joining them. People are from the movie. Oh, people are taking the bus in to watch this fight.
No. This is my favorite. My favorite part about that is not the fight that happens
Between
It
the
is
brother and
it is
John
the
Wayne.
5 minutes of dragging, literally dragging
Right.
the
Yeah.
wife
Yes.
through the fields of Ireland.
Right. Yes.
Listen, Mary Kate.
5 miles. 5 miles. They say.
Steven,
It's a good stretch of the legs.
it's just a stretch of the legs.
It's not.
She said it herself. Mary Kate Danaher said it's just
Yeah.
a stretch of the legs, all right? And she needed to be dragged along, okay? Let's tackle this first of all. Do you guys think this movie paints Irish people in a bad way?
Very poorly.
Keep in
Very
mind
poorly.
it's over 60 years ago.
That does.
Does it paint Irish people in a bad way, or does it paint everybody in 1952 a bad way? And this is also a movie, I think it's set in like the 30s.
That's a fair statement. A fair question too. Does it? Yeah, I think everybody was bad then too.
That's what I mean.
But I mean, I think that.
But Irish people specifically, do you think?
Yeah, but that we're.
I don't think that
discussing
it.
watching it now though. You see what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you watch it now, like back then, I'd imagine the movie came out and people were like, "This is a good job, fellas. Well done."
This is an accurate representation.
Right.
Of
It's
life
people
at
that are
home.
it's people that are like that are like in their 40s and they're just looking at this movie just like, God, I remember when I was in my 20s and this was how it was.
Right. Yeah. And
I
now-
wish it was still like this.
but you watch it now and you're just like, this is bad for Irish people, for everybody. I remember the one thing that and I would say the one line that I really want to get this out before I forget is when John Wayne's character, he's arriving and he's getting a ride to the town, and he first sees Maureen O'Hara, and he's smitten. And McLean, is that the guy's name? The
McLean.
McLean. He says to John Wayne's character, Thornton. He says, he's like, "Oh, who's she?" Thornton says, "Who's she?" And McLean's like, "It's only a mirage brought on by your terrible thirst." And I was like, that is incredible.
That line holds up, don't it?
That line does hold up.
Holds up.
Very strong. And that's what had me sold in the movie. I'm like, you know what, man? I'm really going to enjoy this.
That's what I mean, though.
And then it just de-evolved.
No, you
and
know
it was
what?
a 2-hour movie.
You know what I love immediately that the guy mentions, because he mentions it also in that scene, is that he's like, who's that girl? And he's like, it's a mirage. And then he's like, oh yeah, they've got a like poor family, redhead woman living at home.
Yeah,
was
even
that I had
then.
this moment where I was just like, what? Wait a minute. So we're just like off the bat gonna like just trash redheaded people, which I thought was like a thing in Ireland. I thought that like
What?
Dude, there's a couple moments in the movie where he distinctly is like poor family with a redhead living at home. What are they gonna do with her?
No, that means like a lady of her age living at home. It's the redhead thing. The only reason they give any crap to her for the redhead at all is just like pointing out like she's a feisty redhead. She's like quick to anger. She says it herself. She says,
that's true.
"You should know that right away about me. That the red
Is
hair
that
is
the
no
reason
lie."
Is that the reason why they mentioned
red
it?
hair? Red hair. If someone with red hair is angry, then you associate it with the red hair. I'm not saying that there's any accuracy to it, but that's all they were saying. They weren't like, it's not like that South Park thing is just recent. People hating redheads is a very recent invention, especially in Ireland where they all come from. Like,
And they're all redheads for the.
there's
not all.
there's
A lot of
but
them.
there's
A
a
lot of
bunch.
them
There's
are.
a bunch of redheads
Yeah.
over there.
So the movie to me doesn't
Yeah,
hold
but there's
up.
so many good lines like that throughout the movie. He says later on, he's what's his name? The brother, Squire. Squire's pressing Sean Thornton about his sister, and he goes, How were you behaving like that outside of church?" And Thornton goes, "I was just saying good morning." He goes, "But good night is what you had on your mind."
Yeah, that's true.
These are great. That's
No,
great
no.
writing.
Yeah.
No. Like I said, there are great moments in this movie. Okay, there are great things that happen in this movie, but there are whole swaths of this movie that make no sense whatsoever.
Nope.
Like what? I'll explain.
Like,
Because this movie is heavily rooted in Irish culture.
No,
I got everything.
understand.
And I did like the fact that you're watching the movie and you're thinking, "Oh, I'm learning about a different." You don't see that very often. I don't see enough movies where you're learning about different cultures. But then again, I watch a lot of garbage movies, so I don't really.
This was the first movie ever with Gaelic in it.
You mean that
spoken Gaelic.
Bloodsport didn't?
that is
didn't
in the Hall of
teach
Fame.
you
That is in the
about-
blockbuster. You did like the movie. So.
No, I know, but Bloodsport didn't. Okay, whatever.
It didn't teach you about culture.
What were you gonna say, Steven?
What I was gonna say is like, I mean, maybe I just don't know enough, but like, is it just common knowledge and very regular to any movie-going audience of the 50s that there would be a very hotly contested horse race around a beach?
Yeah, what was that?
Just, it's not the fact that they had it, because I had this moment where I was just like, okay, maybe that's, but they didn't. It wasn't like, oh, this is the big race this year. This is like the thing. It just felt like it was like oh yeah, this is what we do on Sundays. We have big horse races.
I thought that was
Where-
inspired by Thornton moving there.
No.
I
Can I explain
was
this?
so confused.
Right. It just
Guys,
came out of nowhere, the horse
You know,
race.
you know how like in New York City we have like the Puerto Rican Day Parade, the Gay Pride Parade.
Right.
Believe it or not, when you go to other places, they also have traditions and things that they do like once a year, like a goddamn horse race. You morons.
Okay, it just
Yeah,
You don't need a reason for the horse race.
No.
And this happens after a montage. It's after Thornton is kind of rejected, that he thinks he's not going to be able to marry her because of the brother. So he goes and he fixes up his house and he gets a black horse and you see him riding around like a badass on it. And then you find out that he's entered the race. Like, what's so confusing?
Because
And also, the
the
ladies
race
put their hats
itself-
on the thing, and
the race itself did not get hyped at all in the movie. It was just like, this was my thing was that if I was somebody in the 1950s watching this movie, I feel like I would have been like, hey, where'd that horse race come from? why did that horse race exist? Because I just didn't feel like in the 1950s or even in the 30s that there were just understandable like oh yeah, obviously this is an Irish regional horse race. Like
It just seemed jammed in there, man.
It's just I said it too.
yeah, it seemed really jammed in there.
I think Lopez, my roommate, came out when I was watching this, and it was in the middle of the horse race.
Mm-hmm.
And that horse race was the equivalent to nowadays when you're writing a script and it's like every 20 pages you need an action beat. Like you need we need a car chase in the middle of this scene. That was it. That's all it was. But
Yeah.
they used it as a tool to help forward the plot in terms of the bonnets and Thornton grabbing the wrong bonnet and the brother getting tricked.
Oh no, he didn't grab the wrong bonnet.
He grabbed the widow's bonnet.
Oh yeah, no, he didn't grab the wrong bonnet.
You think he grabbed? He was trying to grab?
Oh no, he grabbed the widow's bonnet because he wanted to get the kiss from the widow to make the brother jealous. That was that whole point of that.
No, he wasn't in on that.
I still think that was the point of it.
You think that was the point of it?
I don't know because he looked very surprised when he got that kiss.
Yeah, he was very surprised when he got that
yeah, but it
kiss.
certainly did make the brother mad.
Yeah, it worked out in his
I think
favor.
that he,
but
I think that he did it to spite the brother.
You think so?
I don't know about that.
That's my
I
opinion.
don't think that he's a boxer who's let's
Okay,
talk about his character.
that was going to be the
He's-
next thing that I was going to bring
he's
up.
a boxer who kills a guy in the ring but accidentally. Well, he feels it's otherwise.
Which we only find out an hour into the film. This is good pacing. This is a
Right.
good way
No,
to make a
it's
story
not.
interesting.
What
do you open with that? You open with him?
It was an hour and 10 minutes into the movie, and I literally out loud by myself went, "You're gonna introduce a new plot point."
Well, they
Like
allude
a
to it
new
earlier
whole
on.
Character plot point.
They allude to it several times. Why are you coming home to Ireland? I'm escaping my troubles back in America.
right.
Trooper Thor. Well, Trooper is when he realizes who he is, but he also says, he goes like, you look very familiar. Where do I know you from? And he goes, I just have one of those faces.
Yeah.
It's alluded to.
There's a few allusions to it, but it's like I also
They're
think
very poor allusions.
I think
to
those
it.
those
they're
were
not.
I think those
Yes,
were
they are.
retrospective allusions where they had to add that in to kind of make that make sense.
This is classic structural writing. If you do something like that early on in the film, it's it's going to come back later. If
Yeah,
you say,
but-
where do I know you from? You look extremely familiar to me. Oh, and then John Wayne clearly looks uncomfortable and says, "Oh, I just have one of those faces." You think they're just not going to bring that up? And the rest, you got to have that in the back of your head. That like, oh,
No,
he
I
must
understand
have a
that it was.
past.
Right.
I understand that it was there. I'm just saying it wasn't very good.
It was 1952. Okay, I want to bring up this point.
You can't keep using the
No,
year
no.
as an
No,
excuse.
no.
Yes.
One sec.
I
I
can
got
and I
one more
will.
thing. I got one more thing on the boxer. My favorite part that happened with the boxer was when he's talking to the priest, who's a sports fan, who has all these pictures in a book or whatever.
Yeah, scrapbook.
He scrapbooks sports things, I guess.
I guess it was sporting events were so small and I guess far in between.
That's
that
what
you-
I'm saying. It
you
was
could
the
scrapbook-
30s.
I mean, yeah, it
There's
was.
no entertainment.
It was between. It wasn't like the internet, so it was like oh, this amazing thing, and you cut it out of the newspaper. I get that, but I just love that his not only was it like big headline, and then he's got it underlined, but then he reads every single word from the headline like I, the audience, have an inability to read.
Yeah.
It was 1952, Stephen.
1952.
People couldn't read back then.
People weren't
You
reading.
see, you
They
see
were
how
just beating their wives and having horse races,
they
and
didn't
that
have
was
time.
it.
I don't have time for words.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The horse race, the scrapbooking, it's the 30s. You just look at fire at night and go to bed. Like that's it.
I'm
There's
too
nothing
busy
else to
scowling at my wife.
Look at fire
Yeah.
and go to bed.
So I'm gonna try and swing you on this one, Casey.
right. Because
when
you know Steven's a lost cause.
it's a lost cause. But
I've
you know,
swayed before.
You've swayed
so
before.
That's
Who
true.
knows? One of my favorite little jokes in this, and I immediately thought of you.
Right.
Because it's in one of your favorite film series.
Sure.
When they're trying to get to, I think it's not the end fight. It's something that happens earlier on. It doesn't matter. But two priests are like running through the garden
Yes.
to get there. There's a fence with a door. One priest hops the fence.
The older priest too.
The older priest
Hops
hops the
the fence, yeah.
And the younger priest looks at him like, what are you, crazy? And opens it and walks through.
Right.
Just like in The Fast and the Furious 2, where they get to the car lot. And
Yes.
he punches the window open,
yeah, and the
Tyrese,
other
and
one-
then it just opens it up.
Right. That's a classic tool. And hey, that movie could have invented that for all I know.
Maybe. It was
Yeah.
1952.
1952. You don't know. They weren't doing that. And I thought that was kind of interesting too. There's a lot of like cool aspects but the thing is there's a few handful of good lines. There's a few handful of good action sequences. Like the fact when the brother and Thornton, John Wayne's character, they're fighting through the town. And every so often, someone just throws a bucket of water in each of their respective faces for some odd reason. And
Well, it's like the sponge in current boxing. Like, you'd splash him.
Right.
I mean, this guy should be killing I can never remember this guy's name. Danaher.
Danaher.
Even for an
Danaher.
Irish person, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a very chalky name, you know?
John Wayne's character Thornton was a professional boxer.
He killed a man.
He murdered a man in the ring. How is this boxing match going even further?
And they justify this because earlier on, the priest says to John Wayne's character, Sean Thornton, he says, don't underestimate Danaher. Danaher, he's got a mean right hook and a jaw of granite.
Yeah,
And it's like, I killed someone with my bare hands.
and not even wrapped hands.
Wrapped hands with
Wrapped-
pads on them.
And but you got to look at Danaher, the guy who plays him. He's huge.
Yeah, he's a big
He's
dude.
Yeah, he's a big
When he
dude.
stands up next to Maureen O'Hara earlier
Yeah.
on in the film, that's when you kind of realize the scope of like, oh, this dude's big.
And when he's standing face to face with John Wayne is 6'4".
Yeah.
So they're both big dudes. And Danaher's fists, when you see his fists, it's like the size of my head. They're huge. They're cantaloupe-sized fists.
It's true.
But then the fact that Danaher and Thornton are able to go back and forth just alludes that the Irish constantly fight, which is another bad stereotype.
No. The best part about that entire fight, there's great little moments in that fight.
Yeah.
The best part about that entire fight is we're fighting through the town. We're fighting through the town. Oh, there's the bar. Do you want to stop fighting for a little bit?
Not that I'm tired.
Not that I'm tired.
Not that I'm tired or
I
anything.
can keep going.
They
But would you
stop.
like to have a couple drinks and then we'll get back to this fight?
They go through. They have a couple pints, and then
They start throwing pints at each other's faces.
and then what's his name? John Wayne throws Danaher through the door,
Yeah.
and the door shatters like glass.
That was
doesn't
fantastic.
make any sense.
It's so ridiculous.
That's the reason why I said don't stream it. It's because there's just so many parts of this movie where I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
This
to
is
me.
what I felt, man.
This movie makes total sense, and it's a very entertaining movie. You should watch this film.
You're a nationalist and the worst. This is what I didn't. Man, the movie. It had me going in the beginning, and
When did it lose you exactly? Like, was there a moment, or was it overall? It's just like this is too long, and it's not funny enough, and it's not action enough.
It's a long movie. It's like over 2 hours long. 2 hours.
And I just want to say, and I know I keep saying it's 1952, but a lot of movies back in the day were older.
They were
you
indie
know,
movies are 3 hours long.
because you're gonna go to the movies like you're excited. You want that movie to be long back in the day.
because moving pictures were a rare thing. It was not.
Well,
a
you
com-
also didn't. They didn't.
and they had intermissions back
They didn't
then
have.
too.
They didn't have movie times.
Oh, it was just always going, huh?
They just would run movies and then you could go in.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And like they didn't have movie times where it started.
Mm.
The first movie that ever did that forced movie times on movie theaters was Psycho.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you
Hitchcock.
needed to watch the beginning to understand what was happening.
Oh.
So a lot of the movies, literally, it's like you could just enter in at any time.
You could, and this was one of them. I mean, you really could. But
Yeah.
what really took me out of the movie, I'm not a big proponent of saying like, oh, the ending takes me out of the movie. But the thing is, the ending of this movie, the whole like, he's dragging her across the
The
field.
dowry is the big issue.
The
Just real
dowry's-
quick,
yeah.
the dowry is the big issue.
We'll talk about that first.
The dowry is the thing because they do get married even
Yeah.
against like the brothers' wishes, and to Maureen O'Hara, the marriage is not complete because Irish culture, Irish tradition was still freaking ancient, and you had to give them a dowry. You have to give them a money thing. Like, please take this woman off my hands.
Also
No,
big
no.
in Indian culture.
I will say
Yep.
this is that this was the first movie, this was the first thing where a dowry was brought up, and I was like, oh, I kind of get it. And the reason why is because during a time period where women...
Hearing
No.
you say that, Stephen, is so shocking.
Yeah, it's so ignorant.
Stephen next is going to be like, and when the old lady brought over the stick to beat the wife, I was like, that kind of makes sense
Makes
too.
sense.
no.
to me.
And this is my reasoning on it is that when I think of a dowry, I think of exactly that. Like, here's money. Take this
Yeah.
woman off my hands.
Right.
But to her, in a time period where nobody,
okay.
where women didn't work, you worked in the household.
Mm-hmm.
To her, it was. This is me bringing something to the table, like
Right.
money wise, where I can and
seemed
furniture and stuff like that.
progressive in a way.
And so it was very much this moment of like that made sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
where I was like, oh, this is like a woman being able to be in a household and look at a husband and be like, no, I don't just cook and clean. I brought this furniture. I brought money. I
Right.
own a part of this house.
Right.
She's
and
kind
could,
of
and could actually like stand up to the husband. Because he couldn't just be like, look, this is mine, and this is mine, and this is mine, and this is mine. You've brought absolutely nothing. You're my slave.
Mm-hmm.
Was that by bringing the dowry, you could be like, you could be like, no, I own a lot of stuff in here, and I'm a part of this household too, and we are equal in a certain footing once we're inside this house. Was that I was like, oh, dowries like kind of make sense to me. I think it's an esoteric, awful thing that we shouldn't do anymore.
Right.
But it like kind of makes sense to me for that time period.
Especially in 1952.
Especially in 1952.
She's a bit of a progressive character because you get the feeling that besides being just kind of quick-tempered and stuff, she is an independent woman.
Yeah.
She does have a bit of savings saved up. You know what I mean? She's not just gonna marry any old dude.
She doesn't take guff from her brother.
She don't take guff from nobody.
Right. And
That's true. She doesn't take up from anyone.
She's gorgeous too.
Of course. Maureen O'Hara's still alive.
How's she look?
She's I mean she's 94.
Now I kind of want to look her up.
Yeah. So I
Is
looked.
she 94?
Yeah, she's still alive. I looked her up. Yeah.
Maureen O'Hara, if you're out there,
Right.
we'd love to have you on.
We'd love to.
Flix
You
Book
can.
Club.
But the thing is, the ending of the movie is just so preposterous and so absurd, and it's happening. The whole ending where he's dragging her through 5 miles. He's now coming after the brother to get this dowry.
Because the brother
money.
wouldn't give up the dowry to make the marriage complete.
Right.
Thornton doesn't care, but Maureen O'Hara is very concerned.
And in the end, he takes the dowry and he burns the money anyway.
Yeah, with her like that, she kind of does it too. She opens the door to the furnace.
And they just
that was a little confusing. Weren't they outside? Where's the furnace? Like, why is there?
It was like a steam engine-y thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be a tractor.
Maybe that might have been
Dirty things.
right.
Dirty things.
Dirty loud noises.
Just this consistent like absurdity of them going through the town. This whole fight of absurdities is insane, and it kind of that whole ending just chops away at the movie for me, and it just goes like, this is getting worse and worse and worse. And your mom is right and right and right. And I'm like, no, I can't in good conscience recommend this movie to anybody.
I'm
like, why would I?
No, my thing with it was consistently kind of looking at it and just going, it's when I look at the way that their relationship was set up, the thing that I kept thinking was just like, was this, and I think it was this just how it was in the 30s, in the sense that was like, hey, I met you. We went on like 3 dates.
Yeah.
We're going to die in like 10 years because of all the terrible things that happen in this world. We're going to get married now. And then you would get married, move in with somebody, and be like, I hate you.
Yeah, now let's
Just
get
like,
to know each other.
And it's like, now let's get to know each other. And it's like, oh, well, I do things like this. And it's like, I hate the way that you do that thing. And then it's just like, because that just built, like, to me, that makes sense that it builds up this entire, like the comedic thing of, like, my wife, I wish I could leave her kind of thing. Is that it's like, you don't get that as much these days because it's like, my wife, I wish I could leave her. And then I did because I got divorced. Like,
yeah, that's true.
But
it's
there's
progressive for the considering, like,
I mean, it is and it isn't. I won't hype it up too much.
No,
like it is.
but
this is a very sexist film, but it was a very sexist world at the time. Still a sexist world.
Yeah.
So you can imagine 60 years ago.
But she's able to, like, she doesn't take crap from anybody.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be acceptable. They would just beat her into submission to do that. Like, that's
which is why the old lady, while they were dragging her through, was like, here's a good whipping stick.
Yeah, and that's like and I'm just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I get that, but like her character, the fact that she's able to get away with everything is insane to me. So the thing is, it's progressive, but at the same time, fictionally progressive. Because, like, for the fact that this brother comes home and, he's just like, she starts yelling at him about spitting on the floor, which is something I guess a guy would do back in the day. And then she's like, oh, you clean it up. And no, a brother would just stand up and be like, are you out of your damn mind?
Yeah.
You're a woman. No.
And
I do think that we do have we have a caricature these days of what it was like back then. So the reality is that there were a lot of households where like that's exactly what it would be. It's not it like in the sense it is like he'd spit on the floor and she'd be like, you clean that up right now, and then like the dude would have to do it.
Right.
It was mostly like a lot of the times I feel like it was an in public thing.
Yeah.
Where it was like, if you're in public, the man is the one in charge and is absolutely should not be disrespected. And in the household was a lot less that with certain things.
Yeah. At the height, I mean, before the fight happens, but they burn the dowry, and she feels justified and she's empowered. And what does she do to declare this? All right, I'm going home making dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Like, that's the proclamation of freedom to her and like independence, kind of,
Yeah.
And but here's the thing: back then, that was kind of like where the power was. Like you said, in the house, like you respected Mammy in the house. You know what I mean? Like, Mammy Dearest has her way in the house.
That's true.
Like, especially Irish households. Like,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
say
similar in Indian households
that holds
too.
up. Yeah, like
yeah,
it was funny because they would beat their wives, but the wives would give them so much.
Yeah, and they
guff
would
at
keep
home,
doing
like,
it.
Yes,
The wives would keep doing it. Like my mom
Good people.
constantly
Good, tough
gave
people.
guff to my dad.
Yeah.
And she, like, I've never seen a woman take, she took a lot of lickings and she kept coming back. Jesus. And it was just like, and my dad, in a way, was like, kind of like, he lived off of sort of like an allowance.
I feel like my dad's the quiet man. I feel like your dad was the loud man.
Oh, yeah. He was definitely like, he was just yell. My dad was definitely a loud dude, and he just would yell and scream, and my mom would just, after a while, the words, like, if you say these kinds of awful things to somebody you're in a relationship with now, it's gonna be over very soon.
Yeah,
I'm just
Immediately.
letting you guys know, when you get to like 4th generation American inside the United States, it just becomes like the reasonable human being, because that's what my dad was like, just like the reasonable human
my
being.
parents are reasonable.
And my
human
parents were not very unreasonable people. Very unreasonable. But, I mean, it worked. I guess it worked. But the movie ends with Thornton and Danaher beating each other senselessly, and
and getting drunk and realizing that, hey, they can get along.
Right, and they make their way to Thornton's place where Maureen O'Hara is cooking them dinner.
Cooking them dinner.
And by the way, which I love, every meal that's being served, basket full of potatoes.
That's like it. That's the whole meal.
Yeah, that's like the
And it's not even like a good it's not like a prepared basket of
Boiled
potatoes.
potatoes.
It is just a boiled whole potato.
Yep.
Right. I had food at Dennis's place, his parents' place, and his dad made mashed potatoes, and they were the blandest,
The driest,
Driest.
Yeah, man. I never liked mashed potatoes growing up because my dad prepared it the way he had it growing up his whole life. Dry with like just a little bit of milk, maybe a little bit of butter. And then I had like mashed potatoes at my friend's house.
Jesus.
And my mind was blown open.
Right.
Now I love mashed potatoes, but you gotta soak that.
It's like, and I whispered, I'm like, these mashed potatoes are awful. and Dennis, not being a good friend, just like, hey, Dad, guess what? Casey hates your potatoes.
KC doesn't like your traditions, Dad.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there shoveling these bad potatoes in my mouth going, I don't want to be here anymore.
There's just so many good quotes and moments in this movie. When Barry Fitzgerald, the wee short matchmaker, walks in to see the bed, impetuous, Homeric. I stopped the movie and looked up Homeric. He's talking about like Homer, like Plato's Homer, like it's epic.
Right.
He's talking about this dude's sexual prowess with old myths. Like
You got to realize, even Maureen O'Hara, she's a big gal. Like, she
nah,
stands
she was little. She was little. She was like half the size of
of Thornton.
John Wayne. Yeah.
No, she stood relatively high next to him.
I think they framed it that way sometimes, but
I gotta
think
look up her height at some point. Yeah,
all right.
but she was a big gal.
Well, we got to wrap this
Google,
up.
Right,
it's a
right.
good Google search. How
Before-
tall is Maureen O'Hara?
Yeah. Well, she's definitely not as tall as she used to be. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
She's 92, 4.
Right,
whatever.
94.
She kind of shrunk.
Before we do this, stream it or don't stream it again, let me just remind you guys, in the spirit,
Jesus.
in the spirit of St.
Oh my
Patty's
God.
Day, and looking at this as a moving picture representing 1930s Ireland, and it looks beautiful, by the way, Technicolor.
It does. I will change my opinion on this movie if you tell your mom what you're doing right here and tell her that you're saying stream it.
Oh, I can't wait to tell I can't wait.
I'm still not changing my mind. Don't stream
I'm
it.
gonna make my mom rewatch this movie again.
Why?
Watch this movie for St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy some good Irish humor and a nice love story. And
A nice love story.
No.
No.
What's that movie with the two brothers
This
that
is-
shoot up a bunch
This
of
is
people?
this is a begrudging love story.
Yeah. What's that
I mean, it
movie?
wasn't an arranged marriage. She
No.
was into it.
She was.
It was not an arranged marriage, but it was
Might
like
as
it was
well
like
have been.
we're in so much love, and then they were married, and it was like, actually, wait a minute,
No.
I'm with you forever. Oh no.
What was that movie with the two brothers that shoot up?
Boondock Saints.
Yeah, that's a much better St. Patrick's Day movie than this.
Maybe watch that. I enjoy
Yeah.
that movie. I like that movie. All right, I'm gonna say, guys, stream it. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
I hope you enjoy The Quiet Man. This is a great movie. and it's
Steven,
very
you change
funny.
your mind on this?
I'm gonna go with don't stream it.
I'm gonna go with
still.
the double don't stream it. Our
Ooh.
pick for next week is my pick. Yeah. I don't know why I was looking at you. I was looking at Dennis like, oh yeah, I'm prepared. We're watching Weekend, which is it's a romantic story. So it's 2013. We'll see what happens.
All right, check out Weekend, and you'll hear us next week on Wednesday. Go to the website, flixbookclub.com.
Let us know what you think.
I think I'll go and join me comrades and talk a little treason. Take
Oh,
care.
God.